I'd like to talk to you for a second about leads. I'm sure you've probably heard this word, but I'm going to show it to you in a different way. And we're going to look at it as a reminder, a really simple social media strategy. So without any further ado, here we go. I love this event. This is like speed dating for vendors. It doesn't really get any better than that. I have a few minutes of your time. I really hope you'll visit us over at booth number 313 as soon as we're done. I would certainly like to talk with you more about this very simple social media strategy. If you're checking your watch, I'll know to move on. So here we go. When we talk about a very simple social media strategy, I use the word leads because I think it helps us to remember. Each word stands for something. The first letter is L for listen. How do you listen to the market? How do you listen to what's going on around you, and how do you impact that? The next three words are really easy. It's engage and differentiate. Engagement is a word we hear a lot in the industry. You probably have heard it thrown around in this hall lots of times, but what does it really mean to engage with your consumer online? How do you interact with them in a way that causes them to want to engage with you? And lastly, differentiation is really important. If you don't differentiate between other stores in your market space, the customer has no reason to deal with you. So you need to be able to differentiate. You need to have a solid process in order to show online reviews and interact in a way that causes that customer to want to work with you. The last S is sell, and clearly that's what we're here to do. When you're selling, I think in this example I'm going to show you, it's more about selling an appointment than it is selling a car, but we'll look at those different variables as well. If you're on Dealer Refresh, you may have seen this post. I love Dealer Refresh. I'm on it all the time. I strongly encourage you to go take a look at it. You may see Jeff Kirshner walking around in the showroom, or in the room here, so talk with him, but check out Dealer Refresh. This is an example of a post. Who will sell more cars? Do you think a salesperson standing at a bus stop, or a salesperson that's actively working Twitter and looking for ways to interact, to listen, to engage, to differentiate through Twitter? You can tell from this post probably what the person that wrote it thinks. I'm going to give you a different perspective because I disagree. I think that the person that's monitoring Twitter, actively listening, actively engaging, actively differentiating, has a much better opportunity of a sale. When you're at a bus stop, you can kind of see it in our picture here. Headphones up, head down, right? That's what they do. Nobody wants to be bothered. Very different on Twitter. Let's take a look at some examples. First again, L, listen. This is going to be really small, so I'm going to try to read some of these things to you. This is Chris Bradley. This is a tweet that he put out, and I want you to take a look at what listening garners these dealerships. I'm looking for a reputable car dealer and or car salesman in Lancaster. Is there any help? Are any dealers actively listening to Twitter? Kind of an interesting concept, right? Over here, here's another one. This is Sandra Sarcasm. That is a terrific name, by the way. She dropped her car off. You can probably identify with this. She put her keys in the box and immediately realizes that she left the lights on, right? You can probably feel the panic that she has. It's after hours. What's she going to do? You see what our dealer does here in a second when we look at engagement. Here's another one. This is my favorite. I'm going to leave these to go. You guys can read these. This one I love. This is a Foursquare check-in. Most of you probably know what Foursquare is. This consumer has Foursquare hooked up so that when they check in at a business or a place, it goes straight out to their Twitter account. You'll see how this impacts our dealership in question here in a moment. So DealerRater has some very interesting tools for social mentions, and that's a real quick plug for this. I'd love to have you come by our booth. Again, we're at 313. You can put your ear to the ground for a little while as a dealership employee, right? You've got a certain amount of time during your day. You need to employ technology so that you can be present and listening 24 hours a day. That's what a tool like DealerRater's 360 tool will do for you. It's always looking for those mentions of your business. It's always looking for those things that may be impactful to you to help sell a consumer or help engage a consumer. And we report back to you on that feature. This is a screenshot of our Twitter tool. We're talking about Twitter right now. This would apply to any kind of social media that you're monitoring. But in our Twitter tool, you can actually engage within a 25-mile radius. So let's say I want to look for people that are car shopping within 25 miles of my store. DealerRater's 360 tool will help you to engage that consumer by putting the ear to the ground using technology instead of using your hard labor in your search. Maverick, engage Maverick, right? Everybody remembers Top Gun, my favorite movie. When we're asking you to engage, let's define this term, because we're not talking about shooting down MiGs or keeping up with, how'd that go, keeping up with international relations. That's not what we're talking about when we're engaging here. We're trying to engage the consumer in a way that will cause them to want to respond, to want to have that conversation with us. I'm expanding these tweets a little bit. You're going to see more and more of this as we go, all right? Let's start over here on the right-hand side. Sandra Sarcasm, so she dropped her keys in the key box, right? Immediately realized lights are on. Look what happens. A consumer throws in there, I'll take a new battery with that, right? They're clearly saying, you just bought a battery. The dealership is absolutely going to hammer you for that when you show up and your car doesn't start. That's what's implied here. Look what Ciocca Honda does. No problem. Don't worry about that. We'll take care of you. We'll charge that battery. You might not have to buy another one. They're jumping in and taking that pain point away from the consumer. They're actually lifting that burden for them. Great consumer experience. Up at the top right-hand side, this is our consumer that was saying, hey, I'm looking for a reputable car salesperson or a reputable dealership. It's actually another consumer that jumps in and says, hey, you might want to check out this dealership that I've worked with. This is great, right? Look at what Ciocca does. They jump in and say, you're actually closer to our sister store. So they've engaged. They've said, we're here, we're listening to this conversation that's going on. Last one and my favorite, the Foursquare check-in. Now, I scratched this out to protect the guilty. However, this is not the dealership that responded. This is actually conquesting based off of a Foursquare post that went to Twitter. This dealership, Newton Nissan, who I'll praise them for doing a great job, they were looking at what was showing up on Twitter within 25 miles of their dealership, found a consumer using Foursquare to check in at a competitor, and they didn't say, come to us instead. They said, that's great, have fun. Let us know if we can help you in any way. This is engagement, okay? Not a hostile interaction. This is just saying, I'm here and I'm listening. Lastly, differentiate, right? We have to differentiate. We have to be different than other people up and down the street if we want to get that consumer to come see us. Kevin Fry, my buddy Kevin Fry, who hung me out for a bobblehead doll the other day, said something great in his session. He was talking about what happens during online search, and it's actually excluding dealerships. When the consumer is researching in that ZMOT phase, when they're actually looking at all of the data about your dealership and other dealerships, they're excluding you. They're actively trying to limit the number of stops they have to make before they make a purchase. J.D. Power's number right now is 1.8, I believe. That number's been in steady decline. That's showroom visits pre-purchase. What do you think's happening? They're researching and deciding where they want to go so they don't have to make multiple trips. This is a great thing for a dealership that recognizes this because it sets you up to differentiate yourself from that other dealership, and you can win that showroom visit. You got a much better chance of a sale when they cross the threshold into your store. How do you do this with online reviews? I think this is one of the biggest mistakes that we're making right now. We're collecting review content without any plan to use it later. If all I do is collect a review, I'm like a coin collector that takes that valuable coin, puts it in a glass jar, and hides it in a dusty shelf in a closet. That's what I've done. No collector does that, right? They have a sleeve, an individual sleeve for each rare coin. This is so applicable because this is your social currency, right? That review that a consumer writes about your business when they say great things about you or your sales team, these are things you can use to impact that next customer to come see you. Very, very valuable currency. It's the display, if you look at our two slides here, it's the display that actually adds value to the coin. That's where the value comes from. Again, if all you're doing is collecting reviews and you don't have a strategy to leverage those and put them out early and often in front of that unsold prospect, what value does that have for you? That's the part that makes this all make sense, and that's where the sale actually happens. You need to be doing that for your sales team too. I am a huge, huge proponent of individual pages. Come check us out at booth 313. You need to involve your sales team. They need to actively be involved in your reputation strategy, and when you provide them with the tools to do that, you'll find much, much greater success in not only your online reputation management strategy, but also your collection strategy as well. I'm hurrying up. I'm going to not talk about sales. You know how to do that. Sell the appointment, don't sell the car. I want to finish real quickly with these last two slides. This is the end of the conversation. I can't tell you half a story. I'm getting the hurry it up, right? I can't tell you half a story. Let's see what happened here. After Ciocca Honda jumped in, they said, no problem. This is, again, our key box drop, right? No problem. We'll take care of it. Look at what this consumer says. I'm going to read this for you because you can't see it back there. When dealerships tweet back after 6 p.m., they're either dedicated or drinking. But either way, they're cool. I spent some time with some of the dealers last night out by the pool bar. Some of you were dedicated to drinking. This is a very cool thing that a consumer says about a dealership, and something that's very valuable as far as that social media currency. Last one, my favorite. Look at how this ended. This is again that Foursquare check-in that turned into a tweet that turned into business for this dealer. They respond back, they engage, right? They say, keep us posted, let us know if you have luck at that dealership and if you find good stuff. Laura responds back, that sounds good, are you still there? What time can I come in? It ends here with Newton Nissan not only engaging the consumer, but differentiating. And how do they do it? Through that DealerRater individual page that sets up that salesperson for the warmest handoff, the warmest greeting you could possibly ask for. That's the value of online reviews. That's the value of a review strategy that can impact your business. Thanks very much, Ryan from DealerRater. Join us at 3:13.